Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the channel and to another Energon Universe discussion video. Wave 2 of Skybound's G.I. Joe continuity is now in full swing with Destro #1, released on June 19th, 2024. Dan Waters is writing this one, who I'm kinda familiar with, having read his series Coffin Bound and some of his work on Lucifer, but there's still quite a few of his works that I haven't read, so he's pretty newish to me, I'd say. The line art is provided by Andrei Bressan, a welcome addition to the Energon universe, in my opinion. I recently finished reading Birthright, a joint effort by Bressan and Joshua Williamson, which got me pumped for the prospect of his art on this series. Bressan is operating in a somewhat less exaggerated style than we've seen in other Energon universe titles, and I think it's a great fit for the G.I. Joe brand. As much as I'm enjoying the art, we're not going to focus on it so much in this video, but I'm sure we'll get into more specifics with his art the further we get into the series. Right now, there are some other things I want to touch on with this particular issue, starting with some considerations of the basic premise. As you'd expect, Destro #1 continues the story of the emerging villains of the G.I. Joe universe, opening with Destro overthrowing the current regime of the fictional nation of Darklonia and instating his cousin, Artyom Darklon, as the new Prime Minister. Darklon and Darklonia are pulled from the Marvel Comics and original toy line, though Darklon himself looks a little different than you may remember. He's still got the green and red color combo here, but the colors are definitely less loud, and he's notably missing his mask. It's sort of like they gave this character the classified treatment, updating him and modernizing him and giving him an alternate unmasked head sculpt, and I think that was the right move here, though I certainly wouldn't complain if we see him don the mask at some point. Anyway, there's a lot of talk about giving power back to the Darklonian people in this section of the book, but it's clear that Destro doesn't really care about revolution unless it benefits him financially. And in this case it does, by establishing a friendly and discreet sovereign state where he can conduct his illegal dealings. Darklonian soil is swiftly put to such use with a weapons expo sort of event, and that's where we see this sort of mock-up or demonstration of some kind of mask on display, and the shape and color of the goggles makes me think of Snake Eyes version 4. I don't know if that's what they were going for here specifically. It could just be some kind of demo unrelated to Snake Eyes, but I can't help but wonder. I've always preferred the Commando Snake Eyes to the usual ninja look, and while I like the all-black first appearance design, I've always had a soft spot for the more colorful version 4. Hey, if Skybound wanted to do something different with the character, I say go for the Commando Snake Eyes and use the version 4 color scheme. That would be unexpected, and I would be cool with it. Just saying. Anyway, a cool thing about this opening segment in Darklonia is that we get something of an idea of how quickly Cobra Commander's built a reputation for himself, as the former Prime Minister of Darklonia refers to the commander without naming him outright. This is also a bit of a little fake out in that this sequence initially gives us the impression that the Darklonia takeover was a part of Cobra's larger plan, though we soon find out it was Destro acting on his own, using the clout of Cobra Commander's reputation to enrich himself, which brings us to Destro as a character. We get an enticing glimpse of Destro's character in this issue, already chafing against Cobra Commander's authority and looking for ways to assert himself and build up enough power to maintain some independence from Cobra. We also get a look at a more unsettling and creepy side of Destro when he travels to Scotland to what I'm assuming is Castle Destro to seek the counsel of his dead ancestors, each represented by a different mask, a lineage of McCullens that we've seen in other iterations of the brand. Destro is ruthless and bloodthirsty in this issue. We've got all the makings of a compelling take on a classic character here, and that's got me looking forward to the next issue. So far, I've been more into the villains of Skybound's G.I. Joe series, and that's looking like it'll continue on here, especially as we don't just have one compelling villain, but 3, as Xamot and Tomax make their first appearance in the Energon universe. We're introduced to the pair in a segment set in another fictional locale from the Marvel comic named Sierra Gordo, where they quickly demonstrate themselves to be just as cutthroat and cold-blooded as Destro. Xamot and Tomax, or the Crimson Twins, are just like you'd expect them to be. From mirroring each other in the first panel we see them in, to the scar on Xamot's face, and even the way they speak. It's not as extreme as it is in the cartoon, where they would just hand off lines to each other mid-sentence, but it still gives off that creepy shared brain vibe nonetheless. They feel like the twins I remember from the cartoon, just reimagined slightly for a somewhat more mature audience. And I hear the voices of Corey Burton and Michael Bell in every line, which is a good thing, I think. As in the past, Xamot and Tomax control extensive enterprises, a perfect foil to Destro's Mars Industries. Like the Cobra Commander miniseries, Destro seems like it'll be a series focused primarily on villains. Only this time, it seems like we're dealing with a larger scale and scope, with Mars Industries and extensive enterprises potentially going to war with each other. I think the scale is evident in this opening chapter, where we see multiple army builders from the original toy line, like Destro's Iron Grenadiers and the Crimson Twins' Crimson Guard. Not to mention, Destro now has a bunch of bats on his side. We last saw these androids serving as a coat rack for Cobra Commander's old snake garb in Cobra Commander number 5, but now they are fully in use to depose foreign governments thanks to Energon. Speaking of, there are no Transformers references beyond Energon in Destro number 1. Not a single solitary reference is what I would be saying if it wasn't for this character, Astoria Carlton-Ritz, who is, shockingly enough, plucked from the obscurity, or perhaps infamy is a better word, of the G1 cartoon episode, The Girl Who Loved Powerglide. There are more than a few episodes from season 2 and 3 of the original cartoon that I'm not the biggest fan of, and The Girl Who Loved Powerglide definitely makes the list. So I'm not gonna lie, my knee-jerk reaction was to roll my eyes as soon as I saw her name, but taking a step back, something that I like about what Skybound is doing is that they sometimes will take rarely used and less fondly remembered characters and concepts that most creative teams working on the Transformers and G.I. Joe franchises wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole and somehow make them work. Considering this is the continuity that introduced Skuxoid and cobra-la very early on, it should go without saying that a character like Astoria is fair game. The CEO of Hybrid Technologies seems to have been reimagined here, and I'm willing to give this a shot to see where they can go with the character. After all, Void Rivals just took Skuxoid in a surprising and effective direction with Void Rivals number 9, so putting my feelings for the source material aside, yeah, why not? Let's see where this goes. Astoria from the G1 cartoon also had a baffling effect on machines and equipment where her mere presence somehow caused them to malfunction or stop working properly. As far as I know, this was never really explained in the cartoon. It was kind of dumb, but I did get a kick out of the fact that the bomb Destro tries to save Astoria from doesn't detonate. Could that just be a sly wink at the character's fictional history? Or will she have these inexplicable effects on machinery in the Energon universe as well? Whatever the case, they set her up in this issue to seemingly play a prominent part in this series. And from the solicits for issue number 3, we know a character named Chameleon will be appearing, and Skybound even teases Chameleon's true identity in the solicit information. In the past, Chameleon has been a character who had uncanny resemblances to existing characters, Baroness in the original continuity, and Jinx in the IDW one. So I wonder if one of those two is the direction Skybound will go, or is it possible that Astoria is the person in the suit? I don't know. I guess we'll see. Anyway, that's it from me on Destro number 1. I thought this was a really good issue. I'm intrigued to see more. Let me know what you thought of the issue by leaving a comment on this video. Hit the like button if you liked what you saw, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. As always, thank you for watching this. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.